the Grey Hat Beard podcast.
Hello and welcome to show 37 of Grey Hat Beard, the modern workplace podcast where we talk about all things Microsoft 365. I'm the Grey of Grey Hat Beard. My name's Kevin McDonnell. I'm a solutions architect at CPS and an Office Apps and Services MVP.
And I'm the Hat of Grey Hat Beard, and I'm a technical architect at the Microsoft Technology Centre.
And sadly, we don't have a beard today because he's not been feeling fantastic and he's off at the moment. But just as excitingly as it was sad, we do have a guest to join us. So Luise Freese, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Luise. I'm an independent M365 consultant, MVP for Office Apps and Services, and happy to be here.
Lovely. And Luise in part 2 is going to be joining us to talk about the PMP community blog. Got it right way around, and we'll explain in part 2 why I keep getting myself confused around the different bits there and why you shouldn't be as silly as me. But part 1, we're going to talk about the latest news. Now, we did do the news a week ago, and usually it's 2 weeks between news, and I was a little worried there wouldn't be anything coming up. But thankfully, Microsoft turned up and decided to drop on us something mythical, really, because it didn't really exist, because Windows 10 was the last ever version of Windows, apparently. But last Thursday, they dropped on us Windows 11. And there was all the shiny, exciting news about that. And you can go and we'll put in the show notes this link introducing Windows 11 and all the pretty new interface with the bar in the middle that you can't move to the top or the side, and lots of new ways of looking at things, nice things like the snap layouts, which I think are pretty good on there. I think they're quite a nice little bit of feature on there. But I think being the Modern Workplace podcast, the thing that certainly caught my eye is the new teams. Now, I'll be honest, I got quite excited. I thought this was quite a nice way of doing that. Then I realised I had a chat with another colleague who talked about it and kind of said, hang on, but does this mean people aren't going to use the full fat clients? And Luise, we were chatting just before the show and you had another take on potential problems with this.
Yeah, so I think if Teams with your worker school account is baked into your operations system, this could lead to some, let's say, compliance issues. And I think that Microsoft will need to figure out that first before they release another version of Windows 11 version, whatever, to do this. So I think we will all need to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I think it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I heard this as well, Luise. It was, they've had so many issues with browsers. Surely Teams is a much more ubiquitous thing in so many different workplaces now. This will cause compliance issues, especially in Europe.
Yeah, especially in Germany as well. So where I'm located, and so I think we are all old enough to remember our browser wars. But
I don't remember those at all. No.
No. So
are you talking about Netscape browser wars or?
Yes, indeed. So I've been Team Netscape, of course.
Absolutely.
What about you?
All the cool kids were.
Of course.
But yeah, I like the fact that kind of baking Teams in. I'm certainly intrigued to see where this goes, and I certainly hadn't considered the kind of compliance side of things. But I think that will be a challenge. It'd be interesting to see if it's baked in, can you turn it off? Can you disable it? I know they had Skype in Windows 10. Which a lot of organisations want to get rid of, but it'd be interesting to see. And I'd love to say that the controversy stopped there with Windows 11, but I think I think there was a decent amount of hype. I thought people were quite excited at what was coming out. I think actually, before we go on to the other bad thing, the other one was the Teams announcements with that compact version. They've said they're re-architecting, and I read into that they're going to be re-architecting the full client as well and moving away. Apologies to back-end people, to people who don't care about the back-end, but they can be moving away from Electron, which is quite a heavy development technology, can be very memory intensive, and we certainly see that with Teams and the Slack desktop client. They're going to be moving away to the the WebView Edge WebView 2 which I know about as much as either of you do by the look on your faces on there. But
I needed to
apparently
look
will be
that
less
up.
memory, and that's what we care about.
Yeah, and I think
Has less
so.
memory.
This kind of follows on from some of the stuff, because Rish Tandon, he put a tweet out around this, and he did a really great session at Teams Nation about architecting teams and how his team had done it, because he looks after the engineering team for it. And he did allude to it. I don't know enough about the difference between WebView 2 and whatever, but I think all of the optimizations, those are things that have been in the pipeline for a while. Yeah. How Windows, I hate the thought that it's Windows 11. I hope it just goes to be Windows. That would be so much nicer. But how Windows will actually support it and any optimizations, I think will be quite important.
But I think, as he said in his tweets,
give them ideas to rename again. So please, I do beg you, because the department of renaming struggled already again when they renamed Windows 10 to now Windows 11. So we thought that this would be the very last version, that they would just give updates, more and more of them, and that this would be the last us that we would ever needed to have. And now it turns out, ta-da! So there is another thing that we now need to have, and yeah. Do you sometimes miss XP times?
Not that often. I miss 95. 95 was great.
Now we really are going back in time, aren't we?
Well, 95 was my very first IT project.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in high school.
Al's gone very quiet at this
point. I've gone very quiet at high school. I'm going to be very quiet now. Yeah.
No, but I think they're nice that they've said it will use half the memory, and also it will allow support for multiple accounts. So if they manage to come true on that, the sooner the better.
If they manage to do that, that would be an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
Especially for folks like us,
who
just handle a gazillion of accounts for a bazillion of tenants, for a bazillion of teams, edge profiles, meetings, chats. So it's just so we're lost in Teams, right?
Yeah. That it would be an absolute game changer to actually just be able to sign in once and be able to get to everything from that one account, rather than having to re-authenticate and sign out and sign in. And
that would be great.
So no timelines or news on that. I think they've they haven't really given timelines around Windows 11. They've kind of alluded to sort of Q3, Q4 this year. And a few things, but I don't think it's been any confirmed.
It's going on the insider builds at the moment.
Yeah. So there's versions out, and I think I certainly read some rumours on Twitter, so I'm not giving anything away. That there was going to be some more hardware coming out, Surface hardware, and maybe they'd see that released with Windows 11. So maybe some stuff on that, which is useful because I think lots of us might be getting more hardware soon. Certainly people who've done custom builds of their dev PCs, Al, recently, may need to check, because one of the, I don't know if I'd like to say controversies, but one of the interesting things that come out of it is the requirements to have the TPM 2.0 chip, which most people probably had and didn't know about, or didn't have and didn't know about, but suddenly it's come front and center because it's the the trusted, I forgot what the P is, protection module, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, trusted protection model.
Sort of dedicated hardware that helps keep things secure, which is a good thing. But it's looking like lots of pretty new hardware won't be available. The Surface Studio 2, pretty new, big, expensive bit of kit, at the moment won't be supported when it goes out. You can install the preview version, but the live version, they've said, won't be supported. And it's causing a certain amount of noise. I don't know if you've checked your PC, Al.
Oh, I've got Surface Book, so 8th gen. Yeah, I mean, but that's it, isn't it? It is the latest chips. It is the 8th gen chips that have that TPM module in them, and I think it will cause a lot of issues, because they've said 2025, that's when Windows 10 disappears. So it's already put in a lifetime. It's a bit like Blade Runner, isn't it? Yeah, you've got a 4-year lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. very
how are
good
you going
analogy.
to react to that?
Well, I think it's just like a little bit how Apple handles this. So with their own hardware, and so
Yeah.
you can't just like run just like by default a Megos on every hardware. So yes, there are approaches to do hacking touch stuff, but they make sure that their software only runs on their hardware. And I think it's a similar approach. So it reminded me of that.
I agree. I think the only difference is that Windows is in so many enterprises that I think there'll be an uproar from the personal market, but I can imagine the noise from enterprises that said you've got to suddenly upgrade all your kits is going to be pretty loud, and people are going to be hanging on to the very last minute, right until
people always hang on to the very last minute.
Yeah, with everything. So I mean Internet Explorer, right?
I was using it just today.
No, you weren't.
Oh my God.
Poor boy.
On a server, and couldn't install anything else. It was the only one on there.
On a what? Sorry,
on a server.
A server. What's one of those then?
It's one of those old things,
Oh right,
okay. Been sat there. Good old 2012.
Guys, I'm out. I'm born in the cloud,
I did then connect from that machine onto a cloud VM, and things were a lot nicer because I had access there and could install Chrome. But yeah, not good.
Actually, I do not like VMs a lot because you can't put stickers on them.
That is the only reason for having hardware, isn't it? So that you can put a sticker on it.
Well, obviously, right?
And I now have this image of someone coming down from a data center. The data center's overheating. What's happened? Some bloody idiot has put stickers all over our server racks. It's blocking the airflow. Luise and Elio walking through going,
No, we would never do that.
You just encourage other people to. Moving swiftly on before someone with a data center gets bad ideas. Coming back slightly to the teams, there was a nice blog post from one of our friends, Vesku Nopanen, who's got a lovely picture of him using the HoloLens 2. And I'll be honest, I think he was just showing off the fact that he managed to get hold of a HoloLens 2 and putting a blog post. But I mean, I love his blog anyway. He's put some great things on there, but he's done a good example of using mesh, which was something they announced at Ignite. Was it the Spring Ignite?
Yeah.
Was it the last one or the one before that? I've lost track now. Too many events. But he's given some good examples of using it, showing what it's like. I love those watching on the picture. He's showing that I know there's gestures with the HoloLens and you could kind of click. But now if you hold your hand up, you get a little Windows icon that appears on your wrist that you can kind of tap on, which I thought was very, what was the movie? I think it was Total Recall, the kind of remake of Total Recall, where you could kind of tap on Windows and menus would appear. It's kind of a real life version of that, which I thought was fantastic, and showing some of the ways. Nice smiley picture. Hello, Vesku, giving us a good smile there. But
and
also
does it already have the rounded corners?
Yes, yeah, much like Windows 11. Yeah, it's all on brand. We like that. But I liked it was showing the kind of mesh, and for those who've done any looked at any Alt VR and joined some of the online events, they were showing kind of how that's going to be integrated, and you can see the armless people that appear there. But I think this could bring some good integration. I know we were talking before the show about how events kind of not seeing people, it's adding a bit to it. Maybe if we can all get some HoloLenses, it'll add a bit of reality to life. I don't know. Intrigued.
Add a bit of reality to life. Or
yeah, that would be nice, having some kind of reality in life.
Yeah.
And does it come with a toggle? So can it just like turn reality off from life?
On and off. That's what the gin is for, obviously.
Yes, there is a surreal filter on it.
But it's nice. It's also talked about some of the real life scenarios. I know, Al, you were talking about this CPR testing.
Yeah, the CPR using the HoloLens with sensors in the dummy, and you can actually get certified for CPR by going through the training, and really interesting use case.
So it's good. It's good to see. I think everyone likes the fun bits of this, but seeing the real use cases of these was pretty good. Plus, you get to see Vesku pulling funny faces, which is always entertaining on there as well. Other nice bit of news come from GitHub, and I think you saw this, Luise. You were quite excited about the GitHub project planning for developers.
Yeah, so it seems so news kid on the block, and it seems to give you just like a super nice experience for so you have it on screen right now to just have exciting tables, just like as we know that from Microsoft List. So I felt pretty much reminded of that, and well, so it was obvious, but just like to manage your projects and to better have an overview about everything. And so I liked it. I signed up for preview. So let's keep the fingers crossed that this is soon in out of private preview.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope this
available.
opens this up a bit. I'm hoping, because Codespaces has taken quite a long time to roll out to people to get hands on. I know you've had it, and I'm still waiting, still jealous there. But I'm hoping this being more kind of front end, probably won't need so much of kind of servers running. We might get this around a little bit quicker.
It's just like, so
nice.
having my environment now on an iPad is just like super pretty cool. So not that I need it, but it was cool. So
no, I like the look of this, and it's got a nice rounded feel, lots of integrations with things. I mean, love the fact you can put videos in the comments, and just, which probably showing little games of Octocat is not going to be the way that you want to show there, but showing kind of screen recordings of issues that have happened as well as that, I think would be useful.
I just love the way that it's called project planning for developers, and then it just creates issues, and it's issues all the way through.
As developers,
because it's more than just managing issues, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, so you can, like any other tool in the world, you can abuse it, and you can just like use it in the wrong way. And if a tool makes it easier, and if it supports the correct user behavior, even if the user is a developer, then it's a good thing. So, because at the end of the day, we all want to process our tasks, and an issue is always a task for someone, at least. So it needs to be triaged, it needs to be processed, it needs to be followed up, it needs to be closed, it needs to be resolved. So there are just like certain steps, and we need to follow up with them. And if I have a tool that makes it easier for me and easier for the team to gain more overview and to process everything accordingly, then this is a good thing.
I think also it's got a lot more there on the kind of roadmap side of things. You know, we're always whinging at Microsoft that we want better visibility in the roadmap. Now, any of us who are open sourceresses can put future roadmaps on their own repos as well, and make it easier to manage things going through and track issues against those roadmap items, track tasks against those roadmap items. I think
roadmaps are just like so super important, just to engage with your audience and engage with your customers or with your users, to set expectations and to just like
and change
tell
them
people when you will meet their needs or when things will break.
So
more importantly,
big question: is this the end of Azure DevOps? Then is this the beginning of the end now?
I don't think so.
I think DevOps will carry on going for quite a long time, but I mean, it is a question you've got to think about, don't you? I mean, if you were just starting out as an organization and looking at, well, what am I going to use to store my code? You're going to have to be asking us some serious questions about why you wouldn't use GitHub and why you would use DevOps.
Yeah, I think now this is there. You've got the automation with GitHub Actions. You've got the project planning with this.
So, and it's more and more becoming just like a whole thing that just like really works and makes sense, and we do not need to have just like, again, 1,000 logins for 1,000 accounts, tools that do not integrate with each other, and then I need to copy paste again. And you know, whenever we copy paste something, we will cause a problem in this moment.
Yeah, and I think the other, The other factor that I will get onto later is how much GitHub's being used to manage documentation and document repositories. Which is probably a big factor for a lot of organizations when they look at, well, I've got code, I've got documents. Do I use SharePoint and DevOps, or do I just use GitHub?
Oh, you have to use SharePoint. No, SharePoint. Whoa. That's a step too far, Mr. Erdley. Dear me.
Well, I think there is, again, no or. Shall I use this or shall I use that? So if it's easier for your non-technical audience to read something in SharePoint, then you can just display it there. You can publish that to SharePoint. You can still use GitHub as your code base and as your base for your documentation, of course. So it happens that Elio wrote a nice tool for that. So it's called Doctor. That could be a sweet, cool thing. So I myself use GitHub to write my personal blog on it. And I use this gorgeous Markdown API from GitHub itself to publish that to my WordPress blog. So because in GitHub, no distractions at all. So I just write in Markdown, and there's no formatting. So yes, it's just super basic formatting, but it's just so I don't get distracted there. And then I just publish that with a short tag, and I'm done. And this is super convenient for me. And I think there's just a lot of opportunity, not only for code, but for so many kinds of users. And it's getting just more and more integrated. And I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's a good move. And I don't think it's the end of DevOps, because I think people are invested in that. But if you started from scratch, there's a lot harder thoughts to be had from the stage there. Talking of GitHub and repos, it was a nice one on the PnP samples that came through this week from Paul Schäflein, fellow podcaster, runs the M365 developer podcast with Jeremy Fake. And he's created something that I've been after for a long, long time. And especially I do quite a few migrations, and there you've often got multiple migration accounts, and you want to run scripts in specific accounts at different times and jumping between them. And there's no command to say when you're connected what account you're connected with, and it can get a bit confusing. You end up reconnecting and losing things. But he's created the Magic Tooltips module, which is a great name as well now I think about it, that will actually show you what you're connected as. For those looking at the screen, you can see once you connect, it pops up and tells you which account you're using, so you can see that with the get user commands. I looked into how you could do it, and I couldn't find a way. So hats off to him for solving an issue there that I think quite a few people doing PnP PowerShell do encounter.
Sometimes it's the simplest things that are the nicest solutions, isn't it?
Now, I want to say I don't think this is a simple solution.
It looks very simple.
I think he's made it simple for us, which is brilliant. So I thank him for it.
So simplifying a complex thing, just like in which account am I logged in? What is my status there? So so we know that auth is complex, but simplifying that, just showing me to which account I'm right now connected, or if I'm not connected at all, and this little emoji of the giraffe. Hey, so that gets extra
I hadn't noticed that was a giraffe until just now, and I was like, that's really good. I like
it is the giraffe, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
Kind of rattle on through the news and see. We might even finish vaguely at the right time today. Nice bit of news around. I spoke too soon. I know. Nice bit of news around Viva Connections and having there's been the private preview for the dashboard capability. That's now going to be built in. They've announced to the next version of SPFX, so you can start building out your dashboard web parts. I know we've been playing internally with that quite a bit and hoping to get something out for that one from release date. But I love this open way of working. It's not live yet, but they're opening it up to more people to be able to get in there and use it in their tenants. And I think it's good news. I like the way this has been rolling out, really, and seems pretty positive.
Yay!
Another bit of news. Now, I did try this earlier, and it obviously hasn't hit my tenant, but big fan of Viva Topics, loving what it can do about controlling your knowledge management and things like that. And one of the big things was announced that when you put certain phrases in there, having it auto highlight those phrases, apparently that is starting to be highlighted today. So no longer having to write active hashtag and manually putting your topics within there. But actually seeing that automatically highlighted, which is great. I think that really helped to surface the knowledge there. I'm also getting slightly distracted by this. Is the one problem with sharing links from Twitter and seeing that Switzerland have taken the lead against France, which is a little surprising. Apologies if anyone hasn't been looking at the news. That's not the final score, so I hope we're not giving too much away for anyone who's
don't spoil.
Yeah. See, that's why we don't stream this live, because we'd lose listeners, for ruining their anticipation of the game.
Yep.
Absolutely. Another announcement. Now, I love this one. I think we touched on this a few weeks ago. I think it came out the Ignite. It was the Build news, wasn't it, around the Microsoft Federated Search platform that Ignites back there, which was about being able to put your search content not in Microsoft Search, but have it surfaced through the same places, so you can kind of keep it independent of your SharePoint and Microsoft data and do other things with it as you need to. That's now in developer preview. Just trying to get the right word for it. So you can actually request to be on the early access for that. There's a link to a Microsoft form at the bottom of this page, which we'll have in the show notes, and you can put, ingest all your custom content within there, from other cloud apps, other things on there, and have that surface in your answers, vertical settings, etc., showing up in your Microsoft search. So I've been trying to think today, actually, because I knew I was going to put this article in there of a good use case for it, and I can't for the life of me think one, but the fact that they've put this out there says to me there is a good use case as to why you'd want your things completely independent from the rest of Microsoft Search as well.
Well, it's not just independent from the rest of Microsoft Search, it's where Microsoft Search isn't even picking it up. So,
but you can ingest things into Microsoft Search without the federated search.
Yeah, but if you've got multiple platforms, then you might need this
to keep it independent. So yeah. I absolutely think there's use cases for it. So if that is for you, then get on the preview. I think it should be good. Al, you saw some nice new information protection news out this week.
Yeah, they bundled a bunch of stuff together. So, and they just called it "What's New in Information Protection," and there's a load of stuff in here, and some of it is really powerful stuff. So, mandatory labeling, being able to enforce the Office client to actually force labeling on every document is a lovely one to have in there.
That's quite a big
interface. One. Yeah,
I thought that should be an article in itself, because that's been an issue for a long time of kind of forcing people to label.
Yeah. So, but that's now general availability, which, as you say, that's quite a big one. A lot of organisations have wanted that. Some of the other ones are public preview for co-authoring and autosave, which has always been an issue if you've got protected documents where they're encrypted. So that one coming out to public preview is really good as well, and that will be a game changer that enables organizations to use the protection a lot more widely than otherwise they might have done. And then a couple that are going GA from this, and I've only picked a few of these, but one is dynamic marking, and this is massively powerful to say, actually, I want to take some tokens, the document name, the person who's opened it, and put those into the marking dynamically. There are some caveats as to what platforms will support it and what apps will support it, but it kind of correlates with some news in the UK where they've had
just very quickly, Al, when you're talking about the marking, you're talking about the big stamp that you see over documents, or the headers.
So when you actually, if you were, so let's take a scenario here. If you were to label something for UK secret eyes only,
so like Ministry of Defence papers.
So Ministry of Defence might use this, and then you were to actually put the label in there that said, and it was printed by this person, then whoever opened it, then if only if somebody happened to leave those printed documents at a bus stop somewhere, then you'd immediately know who'd done it. So, whilst you can obviously put protection in and stop printing if they're encrypted, and keep stuff safe.
And you can blame people.
You've got that great big finger pointing capability, which is actually what I had.
Fair with somebody. This one, I did say today they have identified exactly who it is pretty quickly. On there, I imagine it's based on where it was more than anything.
I think they actually reported it themselves. But I've had clients ask for this dynamic labeling for a long time. But it would be really useful to be a bit more intelligent about what you're putting in, who's opened it, who's printed it, and things. So I think dynamic labeling or dynamic marking, I should say, going GA is really it's a very very powerful tool. And then the other one that's going GA is the track and revoke, which we had before and that kind of disappeared, and that's the ability to actually see who has actually opened up an encrypted document and then revoke access again afterwards. So again, another very powerful, highly requested feature going GA. So there are caveats to all of those. You need to read the details as to whether your setup will support it, but very very powerful tools from the compliance perspective.
Some really good stuff then. It's interesting one that so those who didn't see the article I did share on the screen a little bit, there was someone in the UK had left some confidential documents. I think it was around the ship that was going around Russia and the Ukraine, wasn't it? So fairly sensitive at the moment
and current.
So really sensitive. But I mean, you kind of have to wonder, you can stop people printing things, but in some ways, if you've put on there big and confidential, certainly if I was sat in a bus stop and there was a pile of paper there, I wouldn't notice anything. If it said highly confidential, I know I go, oh, that looks interesting, and would have a little bit more. So there's kind of catch-22 you need to think about a bit.
Well, I mean, I think that's always the thing, spies would never know what to take a picture of with their tiny little cameras unless it said confidential on it. I mean, that's just a fact, isn't it? They never take pictures of anything that doesn't say confidential on it. But on the other hand, making sure you don't lose things and things don't leave the premises, that's the key here. Why do you need to print it? If it's really sensitive, it's safer online. It's safer being stored in the cloud, being marked, than it is on premise, being printed, left on the printer, carried around.
I mean, it is literally a hard copy, right?
Yeah. And
if we did not allow people to just do a hard copy on their hard drive, why would we allow them to do the same thing on a piece of paper? Well, we can't control anything anymore, because if it's printed one time, I can copy it just 1,000 times if I like to.
And it's a different way of thinking about security now, isn't it? We have so many more tools that will secure things so much more effectively than we ever had the potential to do before.
But it highlights the fact, if you stop people reading documents easily, they print it out in ways you can't control. So actually putting it on people's phone in a secure way, in that secure bubble, so you're controlling the content, will mean that they'll read the doc where they're going and where they need, versus where they print it out and leave it at bus stops because they're reading it on the way home from places.
So perhaps Microsoft's inability to provide us with printer setup that really works easily is just a built-in security feature. Did I get that right?
Zero trust is no printer drivers ever again.
Well, that would be nice. It would make my office a lot more peaceful.
That should be a sticker. Just saying.
That should be a sticker.
Zero trust.
I can see Louise. Quick note.
I'm just taking those right.
But no, I think two interesting articles and great ones sort of show why I liked that. Right, I think that's the end of the news. Couple of events coming up. One that's already happened. I'll put in the show notes. I was lucky enough to speak to Christian Buckley, who does his regular MVP Buzz chat with people. So do go and check that out. I have to admit, I'm awful at doing these things because I never remember what on earth I talked about until I go back and rewatch it, because I kind of get in the zone and waffle on. So I'm sure it was interesting. Definitely.
We'll take your word for it. You're selling that really well.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
To be fair, I was listening to one with Eric Marzi and who's that lady? Emily Mancini. Had a very interesting one, really good chat with them, and I love Christian's style. I think it's fantastic at getting people engaged. So well worth having a look at the series on there. We were talking at the beginning, there's not many other events, but Al, you are one of the few events coming up with the Security and Compliance group.
Yeah, our Security and Compliance user group is booked up all the way through the summer, and our next event is on Wednesday, so 30th of June. And we have a couple of really good sessions, actually. Sergey Chubarov, who's doing Hackers Won't Pass, Microsoft 365 Defender in action. And we've got Kenneth Van Serksum, who's doing Azure AD Conditional Access Demystified. So both really interesting from a security perspective. So, yeah, sign up. It's on Meetup. I think we've got 80 or 90 people signed up at the moment. Almost 90 people. So, the more the merrier.
And can I commend you on your ability to say those names?
I've been practicing.
Very, very good to give them the credit they deserve by being able to say names. So thank you. I think otherwise, when it comes to events, we've obviously got Commsverse and South Coast Summit coming up after the summer. Real life events. Hopefully things are starting to come back to normal, certainly by next year. Fingers crossed, until a new variant comes out and ruins everything again. But for now, I'm going to stay positive and think that we will be able to meet up on there. So keep an eye out. I think we'll start to see more calls for speakers coming out over the next month or so for events. There's various of the collab days, I think, coming up in September and October. So it'll be another batch. But a little bit of quiet, a little bit of relaxing for the summer months.
Relax for the summer. It's nice.
Which is good. Yes. And talking of nice, I think that's a good time to wrap up part one. And we will be back next week with part two, where Luise will be talking to us about the PMP community blogs. So thank you very much for now. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.